Marcus took a slow breath and reminded himself why he had come. Not to prove a point. Not to demand respect. Just to buy a car, like anyone else. He walked deeper into the showroom, stopping beside a glossy black sports car under bright white lights. The price tag hung proudly from the windshield. He studied the interior, the stitching on the seats, the curve of the dashboard. It was exactly the model he had researched for weeks. Still, no one approached him. Across the room, he noticed a well-dressed couple enter. Within seconds, two salespeople rushed toward them with smiles, handshakes, and bottled water. Marcus watched quietly as the couple laughed and were guided toward the same section he stood in. The contrast was impossible to ignore. A few minutes later, a salesman finally walked over, but not with interest. "Can I help you?" the man asked, arms crossed, eyes already drifting past Marcus as if expecting him to say no. "Yes," Marcus replied calmly. "I'm interested in this model. I'd like to know the available options." The salesman glanced at Marcus's jacket, his shoes, then back at the car. "This one's a high-end model," he said slowly. "A lot of people come in just to look." Marcus met his eyes. "I'm not here just to look." The salesman forced a thin smile. "Well, financing can be complicated," he added. "Do you have an appointment?" That was the moment Marcus felt it again, that familiar, quiet insult disguised as professionalism. He nodded politely. "No appointment," he said. "But I'm ready to purchase today." The salesman hesitated, clearly unsure. "Let me check with my manager," he muttered, already turning away. Marcus watched him walk off, shaking his head slightly, not in anger, but in understanding. This was how bias worked. Quiet. Subtle. Hidden behind policies and assumptions. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through a few messages. One notification caught his eye, a reminder for a board meeting later that afternoon. Another from his assistant asking if the car purchase was going well. Marcus smiled faintly. He typed back just 3 words. "Almost done here." What the dealership didn't realize was that they weren't just losing a sale in that moment. They were standing at the edge of a lesson, one that would force them to confront their assumptions, their culture, and the way they treated people who didn't look like power. And very soon, the truth was going to walk back through those glass doors with Marcus standing right at the center of it. Marcus stepped a few feet away, positioning himself near the tall glass windows that overlooked the street. Sunlight reflected off the polished cars behind him, but his expression remained steady. Calm. Controlled. He had learned long ago that reacting with anger only gave moments like this more power than they deserved. The laughter behind him faded, replaced by low murmurs. The saleswoman returned to her desk, already dismissing him from her mind. To them, the situation was over. To Marcus, it was just beginning. He unlocked his phone and scrolled to a familiar contact. The name alone carried weight in boardrooms, courtrooms, and corporate offices across the city. He pressed call. "Hey," Marcus said quietly when the call connected. "I need you to come down to the dealership on 5th Avenue. A pause. "Yes," he added. "Right now." He ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. While he waited, Marcus looked around the showroom again, not with frustration, but curiosity. He noticed the framed awards on the walls. Top Luxury Dealer. Customer Excellence Award. Big words. Shiny plaques. Empty meaning. A few customers walked past him, some offering quick glances, others pretending he wasn't there. One older man stared for a moment, then looked away uncomfortably. Marcus wondered how many people before him had felt the same quiet dismissal in this very room. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. The automatic doors slid open. Conversation stopped. A sharply dressed man entered, followed by 2 others. Their confident walk and focused expressions immediately shifted the energy in the room. The manager straightened his tie. Salespeople stood up from their desks. The young saleswoman frowned, confused. The man scanned the room, then spotted Marcus. "Mr. Hill," he said loudly, extending his hand. "Apologies for the delay." The sound of Marcus's last name seemed to echo. Faces changed. Eyes widened. Marcus shook the man's hand calmly. "Thank you for coming," he replied. The manager rushed forward, suddenly smiling. "Sir, is there a problem? We pride ourselves on customer service." Marcus looked around once more, then met the manager's eyes. "I came here to buy a car," he said evenly. But instead, I was reminded how easily assumptions replace respect. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. And in that moment, every person in that showroom understood something important. They hadn't just misjudged a customer. They had misjudged a man who was about to teach them a lesson they would never forget. Marcus took a slow step forward, his expression calm but firm. The weight of the moment settled over the room like thick air before a storm. No one spoke. No one moved. He had everyone's attention now, but it wasn't the kind of attention he wanted. "I didn't come here expecting special treatment," Marcus continued. "I came here expecting basic respect." The manager nodded quickly. "Of course, sir. I sincerely apologize. This is not how we operate." Marcus looked at him, then at the saleswoman, then at the rest of the staff who had suddenly found a deep interest in the showroom floor. "Intentions don't erase impact," Marcus said quietly. What happened today was subtle, but it was clear. The legal advisor folded his hands behind his back, standing silently beside Marcus. His presence alone said enough. The manager cleared his throat. "If there's anything we can do to make this right." "There is," Marcus replied, cutting him off gently. He turned toward the saleswoman. "Earlier, you suggested I look across the street. Why?" Her voice shook as she answered. I made an assumption. I was wrong." Marcus nodded. "That assumption didn't come from nowhere," he said. "It came from a system that teaches people to judge before listening." The words landed heavily. A few employees exchanged uneasy glances. One salesman shifted uncomfortably, realizing how close he had come to speaking up earlier, and choosing not to. Marcus walked slowly toward the black sports car again, running his hand lightly along the hood. "This car is impressive," he said. "But what impressed me more today was how quickly attitudes changed once my title was revealed." No one replied. "That's the problem," Marcus continued. "Respect shouldn't depend on a job title, a bank account, or how someone looks when they walk through your door." The manager lowered his head. "You're right, Mr. Hill." Marcus finally turned back to face everyone. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone," he said. "But I hope you remember this feeling, the silence, the discomfort. Because someone else will walk in here one day who doesn't have a legal advisor to call." He paused. "And they'll deserve respect just as much." The room remained silent, but this time, it wasn't confusion. It was understanding. And that understanding marked the moment the dealership realized this wasn't just about a car. It was about a lesson far more valuable than anything on the showroom floor. The manager stood frozen for a moment, unsure how to respond. This wasn't the ending he had expected. He had prepared himself for anger, maybe even a public complaint, but not grace. Yes, of course," the manager said quickly. "We will do whatever is necessary." Marcus nodded, but his expression remained serious. "Make sure this isn't just a reaction," he said. "Make sure it becomes a change." He looked around the room again, meeting the eyes of the employees one by one. No accusation. No hostility. Just a quiet challenge. Every person who walks through these doors brings a story with them, Marcus continued. Some are visible. Most are not. When you decide who deserves respect before you listen, you don't just lose customers, you lose your humanity. The saleswoman wiped her eyes, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry, she said. I truly am. Marcus nodded once. I accept your apology, he replied. What matters now is what you do next. He turned back to the manager. I want the car prepared by the end of the week, he said. And I want your staff invited to the community center when it's delivered. The manager looked surprised. Invited? He asked. Yes, Marcus said. So they can see where leadership really starts. The idea caught everyone off guard. This isn't about punishment, Marcus added. It's about perspective. The legal advisor smiled slightly for the first time. The manager straightened his posture. You have my word, Mr. Hill. We will implement new training immediately. Marcus picked up the brochure from the desk and glanced at it briefly. Good, he said. Because today could have ended very differently. He paused at the entrance, hand on the door. But instead, he continued, it can become the day this place decided to be better. With that, Marcus walked out, leaving behind a room full of people who would never forget the lesson they had just witnessed. The message didn't need repeating. Respect isn't something you earn with money or status. It's something you owe, before you know anything else. The response was overwhelming. Within days, thousands of people shared the dealership's apology online. Comments poured in, some praising the honesty, others calling out how common such experiences still were. News outlets picked up the story, not to create outrage, but to highlight something rare, accountability paired with growth. Marcus watched it all quietly from his office, never once giving an interview. He didn't want attention. He wanted change. At the community center, the car arrived exactly as promised. Young students gathered around it, eyes wide with excitement. But Marcus didn't talk about engines or price tags. He talked about discipline. About patience. About walking into spaces where you're underestimated, and leaving with your integrity intact. This car isn't about luxury, he told them. It's about standards. How you carry yourself when the world tries to define you. Meanwhile, inside the dealership, things truly began to shift. Staff meetings felt different. Conversations became more honest. Employees were encouraged to challenge their own assumptions instead of hiding behind them. For the first time, discomfort led to growth. The saleswoman who had once dismissed Marcus sat nervously in the lobby of Hill Innovations a week later. She wasn't there to defend herself. She wasn't there to explain away her behavior. She was there to learn. During the interview, Marcus didn't bring up the dealership. He asked her about her goals, her values, and what the word respect meant to her. She answered honestly. And that honesty mattered. When she left the room, Marcus turned to his team and said something simple. Growth begins when someone is willing to see themselves clearly. She was offered a role, not because of guilt, but because of potential. Months later, Marcus received a handwritten letter from her. It thanked him, not for the job, but for the lesson that changed the way she saw people. The story eventually faded from headlines. But the impact didn't. Somewhere, a young person learned to stand taller. A workplace learned to listen. A dealership learned to see. And Marcus Hill continued doing what he had always done, moving forward quietly, proving that true power doesn't raise its voice. It changes the room. And sometimes, it changes the world. If you like this video, smash the like button, subscribe for more powerful stories, and drop your comment below. Your opinion matters.